Dmitry, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for Accelerated Linux API for Software Diagnostics with category theory in view. I was wondering if you could just take a moment to talk a little bit about yourself and about your new book.
Okay, then thank you for invitation. I'm glad to talk about this book. I am basically a diagnostician, so I like diagnostics. I like something abnormal, signs, symptoms, like to see them, investigate, look for root causes, and so on. So I am like a GP in medicine, so I look at, generally I have a breadth of knowledge, but not particular depth, although I have some depth into certain areas. But then I recommend people look there, contact that vendor, and so on. So yeah, and about this book, last year I got the idea about writing a book about Windows API, because I always work with Windows API mostly, right? But because of my recent focus of Linux API, then I thought, maybe good, to kind of generalize, improve it, to see Linux API, and basically even compare them. And here, category theory is a natural thing, because you can actually use category theory to analyze Linux API because it's composable and so on, and then you can use it to analyze Windows API and use category theory to compare them.
Yeah, and so if you could just sort of maybe briefly for a second explain what category theory is for people who might be new to sort of software diagnostics and what category theory is.
Oh, that's a nice theory. Basically, think about arrows. Everything is an object, right? Or whatever you think, is an object, and then you connect them with arrows. And then you can actually put arrows between arrows, arrows between objects, arrows between categories, which are objects with arrows, and so on. And then you can blow your mind and you can go to infinity. So that's wonderful, but it actually requires some shift. It all looks very simple when you talk about objects and arrows, but once you go deeper, it blows your mind, and it's actually become very complex. It requires shift.
And the book is the book is very extensive and in detail. And I think it comes from a training course that you've set up. Is that right?
Yes, it actually the training course.
Okay.
So there are slides with commentaries, explanations, right? But there are also exercises, so you can follow. You can actually do all hands-on. But there are extensive explanations, all what you need to know about Linux API from diagnostics perspective or from security perspective. Something that, and I actually, when I started writing this course, I decided not to repeat. So I do not repeat like what you can find in other books, because there are like dozens of books about Linux API. So I put everything kind of not only from category theory of view, but also from different aspects. So like dozens of aspects other books usually glance or do not dive deeper and so on. And that very wonderful learning experience for me was as well.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that great explanation. One thing for anyone interested in reading the book is that Dmitry is very aware of all of the other kind of books and sort of training stuff, so that like his when he's training you, he's informed by that sort of wider context of things.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is one of the things that makes your books so high quality and so useful for people learning things. Dmitry, thank you very much for being on this Leanpub launch video for your book, Accelerated Linux API for Software Diagnostics. For anyone interested, there's going to be links to everything you're curious about in the YouTube video description. And there will also be a link to our full podcast interview for Front Matter that we did with Dmitry a couple of years ago. So thank you very much, Dmitry, for your time today.
Thank you, Len. That was really helpful. Thank you. Always.